We'll pick our teams for the Aston Villa game. Alisson Becker will be in goal, Joe. But what about the back four? Ibrahima Konate was very, very good midweek. Does he stay in, or is it just Joel Matip and Virgil van Dijk?
No, I don't think he stays in just because I think this is a very tricky game, isn't it? So I would go with Matip and Van Dijk. Obviously, good against Wolves, very solid. And, I liked Konate. I like what we see of him, but I just think Matip and Van Dijk is the partnership to beat at the moment. And, Konate has to keep doing that in those appearances that he gets to eventually force his way in. So, yeah, Matip and Van Dijk for me.
I presume it's Robertson and Trent for you at fullback. Is that right as well?
Yeah, no doubt about it. I say no doubt about it. Obviously, Tsimikas is playing very well, but Robertson, I think, has massively returned to form. Not that I ever thought he was massively out of form, but certainly has returned to form in the last few weeks. So, yeah, Robertson and Trent.
Is that the same for you, Theo? I think it's the first choice one, isn't it? Fairly straightforward, that. Is it a case of all four of those coming in?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think you rush them all in midweek if you're not going to bring them all back in for this one. I suppose that's quite nice for Klopp that his centre-back options aren't decided by one of them being ruled out from injury. The fact that he's been allowed to rotate in Konate every so often and manage Matip's minutes. Like normally, he's been sidelined for at least a month by now, but he's stayed fit for the majority, and touch wood that stays the case for the rest of the season. He will sit out the odd game here and there for the rest of the season, no doubt about it. But it does feel like when you drop all four for that Champions League game, it is with all eyes and bringing them back in for this one. Konate did do really well, and I suppose Aston Villa could be a team that suits him in the extent that he's got a bit more pace. We know what Watkins is like. We know what Ince is like. But yeah, Matip and Van Dijk is first choice at the moment. It just feels very strange to have all the centre-backs fit again and it not be the case of everyone else is out, so these are the two that are starting. But long may that continue.
Yeah, absolutely. A role reversal at centre-back. Nat Phillips is the only one that's not fit at the moment. So, plenty of choices there. In terms of the midfield, Joe, I think Fabinho, Henderson and Thiago is, again, the first choice. And again, probably the one that Jurgen Klopp will go with tomorrow.
Yeah, it's got to be, hasn't it? That Fabinho, Thiago axis just seems to be. I think they're still unbeaten, aren't they, in like 19, 20 games now together? And that just seems to be blossoming nicely into almost, Liverpool's strong in every area, aren't they? But that almost feels like it could be, touch wood, if they stay fit. The key to Liverpool really doing great things this season. So them too. And Henderson, I think, has just been in fine form this season. Really, really good form. I think those three provide a nice, solid, dominant platform to go and dominate at home against Aston Villa.
Yeah, 14 wins and a draw, I think it is for
Fabinho
and Thiago. So yeah, really, really good for those two to get that partnership going. Is it the same for you, Theo? And if it is, you might as well talk us through your forward line as well.
Yeah, I'm going to be boring and keep it the same as well. I think with the festive period, you might as well have a weekend lineup and a midweek lineup. So maybe expect a couple of changes for Newcastle. Maybe that'll be one for Naby Keita, and then again for the League Cup quarter final after that, with going to these three for Spurs. But yeah, when you've got this recovery time, you've given them the night off, makes sense to go for them. And then the front three, well, Salah's going to start, Mane's going to start, and you're catching us off guard here because you're making us do this before open training. So if anyone's watching this or listening to this later and I say, no, Jota, don't want to play him, he's got this knock and then he plays in training and everyone's fine, it's already out of date. So you stitched me up here, Matt. But I'll go Divock Origi just to be safe. He's a man in form. He scored a couple of goals. He looks so much better when he's playing through the centre. Let's give him a proper start. I'm going to assume Jota's knock is bad enough to not want to risk him, to make sure you've got him safe and fit for games later in the month than rushing him back now.
Yeah, no, I'm in complete agreement with you. Joe, is there any case at all for putting Firmino back in if he is fit, or is it just going to be a case of giving him a couple of substitute appearances and sort of easing him back in?
I think that's it. I think with him, and the same applies for Jota, if he's got this little knock and he's not fully recovered, I just don't think with the amount of games coming up, you don't want to start aggravating an injury or losing someone for a large period of time now, especially when they're all Liverpool have got a squad. Again, I keep touching wood here. I've got a wooden desk beside me. So, but Liverpool have got a squad that's not far away from full fitness, is it? So I think, for the likes of them too, you've got a guy in form in Divock Origi there who scored a couple of goals. If you're not going to play him now, when are you going to play him? So to me, you just don't risk them. You have Origi in there. You've got Salah and Mane who are banging form alongside him. That should be, you would think enough to go and score some goals past Aston Villa. And do you know what? Minamino's looked good this season, hasn't he, when he's come in? So you've got him as an option as well to come off the bench. Liverpool have got some options there for this game.
Plenty of depth to choose from. It'll be interesting to see which player Jurgen Klopp does go with. But just before we go, we'll do our usual match predictions. I think I'm going to go for a 2-1 win, Theo. It was the same scoreline last season, that stoppage time goal from Trent Alexander-Arnold right at the end back in April. Do you think it might be slightly more comfortable this time? What are you expecting from Aston Villa?
More comfortable, yes, because that Villa game last season was the turning point, wasn't it? That was like the first win after that horrible run of just losing at Anfield every week. That's what really kickstarted the run for them to get into the top four. But they've got the players back. They've got the players in form. I'm going to go for a 3-1. But then I was equally confident last week against Wolves, writing them off. And they actually, from what I've seen, turned up and put in quite a good show against Liverpool. And it took Origi to step up at the last minute to get a win. So I can't be as over the top confident this week because it'll probably come back to bite me again. But yeah, I'll go 3-1 Liverpool. To
be fair, you would have been a lot closer if Diogo Jota had managed to shoot not in the one place that he didn't score from. But Joe, how do you reckon it might be?
I'm with Theo, yeah. Like you say, I still think it will be like a battling 3-1. And I think Aston Villa will show, a very good side to themselves. But yeah, I just think Liverpool have got quite a bit of firepower this season. They seem to be getting the goals that they need. And like you say, against Wolves, it was a great dramatic win, wasn't it? And Wolves do look a good side, especially defensively. But Liverpool had 2-3 chances there that you would normally, especially Jota's, but apart from that 2-3 chances that you would normally expect them to take. There was the Salah one, wasn't there, with the incredible tackle that stopped him turning in an empty net. So yeah, I think Liverpool will go there and score some goals. So 3-1.
Absolutely. Victories all round then. Hopefully that is going to prove to be the case tomorrow. But that just about brings us to the end of today's podcast. Thanks to Joe and to Theo for joining me. And as ever, you at home for watching and for listening too. We'll have all of the coverage of the Aston Villa game across the Echo, Liverpool.com and Blood Red. And we'll be back on Monday with the next Blood Red podcast to dissect the game and assess the Champions League last 16 draw. Until then though, it's goodbye for now.